We're here with Professor Steve Brusati. He is a professor of paleontology and evolution at the University of Edinburgh. Please correct me, Steve, if I say something wrong about your
No,
expertise.
that is correct.
He's the member of the consulting team of paleontologists that worked on Jurassic World Dominion and documentaries for the BBC Earth and 20th Century Fox. Steve is also the writer of best-selling books such as The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. We have like a Brazilian edition of that, and The Rise and Reign of Mammals, which is your latest book. Steve, thank you for being part of our
Thank you. I'm
international
glad
week.
you got a copy of the mammal book over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It hasn't been translated yet into Portuguese. I'm pretty
No,
sure.
but
And so that's
will
great.
it be? Will we have a Portuguese edition of that?
I think so. Yes, I can't quite remember the details. I know we've certainly been trying, and the book came out in English last year, and it usually takes a few years for translations to start to be published. But I really hope so because a lot of very important mammal fossils come from Brazil. A lot of really historic fossils that some of the earliest paleontologists a few hundred years ago were collecting and studying came from Brazil. These are tell us fundamental things about mammal evolution. Same with dinosaurs. So, of course, some of the oldest dinosaurs ever, the Triassic age dinosaurs that lived on the supercontinent of Pangaea 230 million years ago, some of those come from Brazil as well. So I was very pleased when the book was translated into Portuguese.
All right, that's great. Steve, you work with dinosaurs and also mammals and I mean fossils or the ancient fauna. Why do you think are many people fascinated by these animals, especially dinosaurs? From kids to adults, people love
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
I mean, there's something magic about dinosaurs and other fossils, woolly mammoths, trilobites, all kinds of fossils, but especially dinosaurs. There's something I think that's almost mystical about them. I can't explain it. I don't know, but I do think that when it comes down to it, if you go to a museum and you stand underneath a skeleton of a titanosaur, one of the giant long necked sauropods, very common in Brazil, or a T Rex, which lived in America, where I'm
Yeah,
from, you just can't help but be awed, to be flabbergasted, to be put into wonder by these animals. And I think they are more fantastic than any dragon or sea monster or unicorn or anything humans have ever invented in myths or in legends. But these were real. These animals used to actually live on the same earth we live on now. We can find their fossil bones, we can study them. And I think ultimately it comes down to that. There's that magic about these enormous, very weird animals that used to live right here.
yeah. And you mentioned Steve, they were real animals. And my question is, how do we know the things we know about dinosaurs? It's different from studying like live mammals because we have direct access to them. And how can we know things about them? Like their color, for example, or their speed, size.
It all comes down to the fossils that we have and then the comparisons we can make to modern day animals that are either very close relatives of dinosaurs like crocodiles or the descendants of dinosaurs like birds. And paleontologists like me, we really are detectives, and we look for fossils. They're the clues, like a police detective going to a crime scene, looking at the fingerprints and the hairs and so on, and trying to use those little clues to understand what happened there. The detective wasn't there to see the crime being committed, but they can infer things based on the clues, and the more clues, the better. And the fossils are really our clues, and there's certain things that fossils tell us pretty clearly. They can tell us how big an animal was roughly, how much it weighed roughly. They can tell us whether it ate meat or ate plants just by the type of teeth it had. It's not always straightforward, but those are the types of things that we can tell. Did it walk on two legs or four legs? Did it have horns on its head or not? Those types of things we can see directly from the fossils. Sometimes we can even see soft bits as well, skin, muscles, feathers. And that tells us about more than just the bones of the animal, but about what the real animal might have looked like. And even sometimes the pigment is still preserved as a fossil in the skin or the feathers. That can tell us what color these things were. That fascinates me that you can tell the color of a dinosaur that's more than 100 million years old because some little pigment has been preserved and you can see it under a microscope. So those are all things that we can know. And then there's plenty of things that we may not ever know or be very confident in. How exactly did dinosaurs sense their world? How smart exactly were they? How did they interact with each other? How did they mate and reproduce and socialize? We can get some clues, minimal clues about those things. We can see the brain cavity of a fossil skull. We can use a CAT scanner to make a digital model to see, is it a big brain or a small brain? But the clues are so minimal. So really, as a paleontologist, a lot of this work is becoming comfortable with the fossils we have and trying to interpret those in a reasonable way without going too far beyond the evidence.
Yeah. And Steve, do you think that there are things that we'll never know about them?
I hate to say that, because as a scientist, you really should never say that something's impossible, because once you say something's impossible, then you start looking. Then you stop looking. Then you stop trying. You close your mind. We don't want to do that. But yes, for animals that lived hundreds of millions of years ago, there are going to be some things that we probably just will not know, or will not know with much confidence. One of those things, as we're seeing, is DNA. Everybody wants to find DNA from dinosaurs. Jurassic Park made it a famous thing. I think every paleontologist knows if they're the first people to find dinosaur DNA, they'll become very, very famous. But nobody's ever done it, because DNA breaks down so quickly once a plant or an animal dies. And the oldest DNA anybody's ever found is in a mammoth that's just a bit over 1 million years old. So to get DNA in a T-Rex that's 66 million years old, or a Brontosaurus is 150 million years old, it seems very unlikely. I won't say impossible, but it seems challenging, very challenging.
Yes. You mentioned, Steve, Jurassic Park, the movie, and you took part. You were a member of the consulting team for the latest movie, Dominion. And how was the experience?
That's right. So I was the paleontology consultant for the film. I was an advisor. I gave advice. I gave opinions. I didn't choose the dinosaurs that are in the film. I didn't help write the script. I didn't coach the actors how to do their acting. But I was just there in the background. And I saw my role as making sure that the Hollywood geniuses, the creative, brilliant artists behind the film, that they knew the real story of dinosaurs, that they would have real information, that they would always have access to the latest knowledge about fossils and about what these dinosaurs in the film would have actually looked like, what we know about their behavior, what we don't know, where the gaps are. And so really my job was to be on call, to give that advice whenever Colin Trevorrow, the director, whenever the writers, whenever the artists that were making the dinosaurs, whenever they needed any information on dinosaurs. And it was a whole lot of fun. It was amazing to work and play a very small role, very small, in a blockbuster movie, a movie that made over $1 billion around the world. So whether you liked the movie or not, it's undoubted that so many people around the world saw that film. And I think for me as a science communicator, it is one of the biggest possible audiences you can get to communicate your science.
Yes. And Steve, how close are the animals in the movie from the animals, the real animals? Like they have feathers, some species have feathers in this movie?
I would say in general, these are movie characters, they're movie monsters, they are meant to be characters, they're meant to be scary, a lot of them, they're meant to engage an audience. And so scientific accuracy is part of the equation for making those characters, but there's other things that go into it as well. And that's what the writers and the artists have to do. They have to put a lot of information together. It's not a science documentary. It's a film with a storyline of dinosaurs interacting with people. But by and large, I think the dinosaurs are quite realistic. Are they totally accurate down to every detail of what we know from fossils? No. Some of them are a bit bigger than they would have been in real life. Some have some funky features, things sticking out, horns and spikes and things they probably wouldn't have had in real life. But by and large, I think they're very realistic. The small details might be different, but in general, the dinosaurs, the real dinosaurs, would have looked and behaved and felt quite like the ones on screen. And the biggest issue until the current film, so in the first 5 films of the series, there were no feathers on the dinosaurs. And we've known since 1996, with the discovery of the first skeletons of dinosaurs found in China with feathers on their bodies, we've known that a lot of dinosaurs had feathers, just like birds. However, 1996, that was 3 years after Jurassic Park, the first film, came out in 1993. So when Steven Spielberg made that first film, he did not know dinosaurs had feathers. And unfortunately, that image of dinosaurs from the first film was kind of set in stone. And those dinosaurs continued, and they still do in some sense in Dominion, but there are some new dinosaurs in Dominion that do have feathers on them, including a raptor dinosaur called Pyroraptor, which is a close cousin of Velociraptor, the, of course, famous star of Jurassic Park. The Velociraptors are still pretty inaccurate. They're too big. They don't have feathers in the film. The real ones were tiny, just the size of a little poodle dog, and they were covered in feathers. They even had wings. But it's too late to change the look of the Velociraptors. They're too famous. So what Colin Trevorrow did in this film was introduce a new raptor character, Pyroraptor, which looks a lot more like the real raptor dinosaurs. This is the first time audiences around the world were seeing feathers and wings on a dinosaur. And so I'm just very pleased to have played a role in that. It was Colin's idea. He came to me when he asked me to advise on the film. He told me right away, he said, I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me to put feathers on the dinosaurs, and I'm going to preempt you, and I'm going to tell you we will have feathers on some dinosaurs. And I said, that's all I need to know. Let's do it.
Well, Steve, a last question, okay? What if dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct? Would human beings be here today?
The first thing we should acknowledge is that dinosaurs did not completely go extinct.
Okay.
Today's birds are dinosaurs. I know that's weird to think about them that way, but birds evolved from dinosaurs. They are part of the dinosaur family tree. And birds are dinosaurs every much so as a T-Rex is a dinosaur or a Brontosaurus is a dinosaur. Really, the way we should think about birds is the way we think about bats. Bats are mammals. Obviously, bats are mammals. They have hair. They feed their babies milk. They have molar teeth. They evolved from other mammals. They're part of the mammal family tree. Nobody would try to argue that a bat is not a mammal. And a bird is really the dinosaur version of that. It's just a weird dinosaur that got small, evolved wings, developed the ability to fly. But the difference with bats is that bats are one of many mammals that still live today. Birds are the only dinosaurs that survived that terrible asteroid 66 million years ago, this 10-kilometer wide rock that fell out of the sky and unleashed chaos. And if that rock did not hit the Earth, and that was very possible, right? This rock is just an asteroid flying about in space. It has no direct path anywhere. It's just a piece of junk in space. But it just so happened to hit the Earth. If it did not hit the Earth, if it was a close call and it just sailed right on by, I think, well, first of all, the dinosaurs would have never known how close they came to their doom. But dinosaurs at that moment that the asteroid hit had already been around for over 150 million years. They had already survived changes in climate and temperature. They've survived times of global warming and cooler temperatures. They survived enormous volcanic eruptions. They survived rising and falling sea levels. They started to evolve when all the land was together as one, the supercontinent. They continued to evolve as the land moved around. Dinosaurs were pretty resilient. They got through most things. It was just the sudden, dramatic carnage of the asteroid they could not cope with. So if that asteroid never hit, I think dinosaurs would have kept on evolving, kept on adapting, and the world today would probably still be dominated by dinosaurs, at least in the larger sized animals. There would be mammals, because there were mammals living with dinosaurs. Our ancestors, but they were small. They were the size of mice, the size of rats. They lived underground. They lived in the shadow of the dinosaurs. They only came out at night, a lot of them. They were very humble animals. And if the asteroid never hit and wiped away the dinosaurs, mammals would probably still be those small little humble creatures, not the great range of humans and elephants and whales and so on that we know today.
Well, great, Steve. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for being part of our International Week. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I just say to all the students out there that are listening, I'm from America. I now live in Scotland. I've moved abroad. I've immigrated to a new country. I've done a lot of travel for my work. I've been very privileged to visit Brazil, to work with some amazing scientists digging up fossils in Goiás. And I have colleagues in other parts of Brazil as well, studying dinosaurs and mammals together. It's a great thing just to be part of this global world of ours, this world of science. It's very much an international world. So I wish you all the best in your studies. And if you get those opportunities to reach out and travel to study somewhere else, to work somewhere else, or just make a connection with the team somewhere else, even if it's just remotely. It's a wonderful and enriching thing to do.
Thank you again, Steve.
Thank you. Obrigado. Thank you, everybody.